We're here with Asher Haynes, who is about to start. Go back on the Pacific Crest Trail. He's also my brother,
Hi.
and he's a front range student at a Boulder County campus.
Yes, I am.
For those who do not know what the PCT is, Pacific Crest Trail, what is it?
It's it's a hiking trail that goes from Mexico to Canada, and it goes through the states of California, Oregon, and Washington. That's about it.
So
Lots of people do it. It's like 2,650 miles. I attempted to do the whole thing last summer, but with record snow in the Sierra Nevada, which is a mountain range in California, I skipped that section and did basically 3/4 of the entire trail. So I plan to go this summer and finish what I started.
how many miles did you do?
Roughly 2,000.
So how many miles is this next stretch?
About 600.
And the snow is looking bad again, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know exact numbers, but I think it's better than last year. It's still above average.
And what was happening last year? Like, tell us about um, the river crossings and stuff. Because this
Um,
part is like one of the hardest parts of the trail.
It's also what many people say is their favorite part. It was like 364% above average last year for the amount of snow. And then as all that snow started to melt, it created like really dangerous river crossings, and a few bridges ended up collapsing. And so there was really big detours that people were taking around it, or they were um, like some of the bridges you could kind of jump, and people were doing that, and there was like rope systems people were doing, and then other river crossings that never intended to have a bridge because they were normally small. People were like linking like in a line, like holding onto each other's backpacks, and so that way one person is always on the ground. So like by the time the first person goes in and reaches the other side, the last person has just left the other bank, so it's like more stable that way, if that makes sense.
So are you like hype?
Pretty much. I'm pretty excited. I have a couple injuries that or one main injury that I'm still mitigating, but I'm pretty excited.
What is the injury?
It's an ankle injury. I forget the word the doctor used, but it's basically something that can turn into a stress fracture really easily. It's a stress response in a couple of my ankle bones.
Do you think are you worried about it at all? Do you think you'll be?
I'll I'll do it regardless, because I hiked on it for about 2 months last summer with the same issue. So basically, it's just like I'll do it no matter what, but we'll see how much it hurts when I get back, type of thing.
What does that mean?
Like I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Like you're gonna walk until you can't no more?
Pretty much. Well, I'm gonna do it no matter what, and then I'll come back and see how it is. And it might be a lot worse.
And then in that case, you won't do hiking for a while.
Yeah.
And you have a brace on right now?
Yeah.
Do you wanna show him? Do you think
I
you
can
can?
try. It's, there it is.
So do you think you're more prepared? Well, you have to obviously be more prepared than last time.
I feel a lot more confident than last time, gear-wise and mental-wise.
Yeah, can you explain that? Both of
Explain.
those?
Um, there's a ton of stuff to know about gear and what to bring, and it's all very personal. So, going originally, I actually had never used my backpack before, and there was a lot of questions about gear. And now I like know what I like, and I know what I want to bring, and I know what I don't want to bring. And then mentally, it's I know what I'm getting into, and it's not as long. I plan to be gone for about a month and a half. And the other time, I had no idea how long I was going to be gone, and I had really no idea how it was going to go. So it was a lot more nerve-wracking than.
Yeah, what was it like when you were first dropped off in Campo, California, which is the beginning? What was it like? And you started in May last year,
Late May, yeah.
a year or a week after you graduated.
Yep.
And what was that like to be dropped off there, suddenly alone?
It was like really exciting, and I also like it didn't really set in that I was there for good, and I was kind of just like shocked because it, like you said, it was like 5 days after graduation, so I didn't really have time to like mentally process that I was leaving before I left, and so it was kind of like I came to on trail, which was a super weird feeling. And the first couple days I was just kind of like just going about hiking like it was like a day hike, but then I started really to enjoy stuff, and it started to set in that this was gonna be every day, and that was really exciting. So it was an exciting start.
What do you think what were some of the things you learned on the trail?
The reason I left, I was watching a lot of videos and reading a lot of stuff about the trail and why people quit, because I obviously wanted to achieve the goal, but one thing someone said was to write down the reason you're going or your why before you leave, and then look back to it whenever things are difficult or you're thinking about quitting. And I wrote down, I can't remember word for word, but it was something like come into myself or something. It was kind of like the classic, like, I'm gonna go backpacking after high school to like find myself, but it ended up not only like achieving my why, but also a lot of other lessons that I learned along the way, physically and mentally. A highlight would be like self-confidence and the ability to do whatever you set your mind to. And it sounds very cliche, but you can do a lot more than you imagine you can. And like the task of walking across the country is like very daunting, but then when you're actually doing it, it's like you take it one day at a time, and it's really not as hard as it may seem. Along with just like trying stuff out and going through it that way, and there's no real reason to think and stress so much about what you're doing all the time, and just kind of putting your head down and stepping towards your goal one step at a time.
Is that something you can recommend for a lot of people doing a lot of things?
I can recommend that to everyone doing everything. That's one thing I can share, because there's a lot of stuff that is personal and circumstantial, but anyone can take that lesson from that.
So you're a student at Front Range, right?
Yep. Yep.
What are you studying?
My major is biology, but I plan to transfer to CSU to get a degree in exercise science.
How were you able to get through the hard days on the trail, and were there hard days?
There were hard days. If you want me to, I can go into a story of the sleeping in the bathroom.
Yeah. And this story is a hard day.
It was a great day. It was a bad night. I hitchhiked and made a friend, hung out with him like all day, but then at night I was planning to set up my tent in the park, and the town liked and encouraged PCT hikers to do this, and so there was an area segregated to it. And before I set up my tent, it started raining, and then the rain turned into hail, and then I tried to set up my tent, but then everything instantly got wet. So I ended up sleeping in a public bathroom, and that was like a hard night from the outside, but honestly it wasn't bad mentally. Bad days in terms of the end, it was really cold and my ankle was bothering me, and I had to put on wet socks and shoes in the morning every day. But in general, it never even crossed my mind to quit or anything like that. One thing I would say about getting through hard days for me on the trail was just thinking of the bigger picture, and just thinking like, what kind of person are you? Are you the type of person to be upset and have a day ruined by a wet sock? Or are you the type of person to reach your goals?
For people that don't understand backpacking, could you explain it to them?
Backpacking in general is getting to point A to point B with nothing but a backpack. So you have your food and your water filter or water system, along with your tent and everything you need to get to point A to point B. In terms of what I did, which is called through hiking, about every 5 days or so I would hitchhike into town normally. Sometimes town was close enough to trail where I could walk, but after hitchhiking into town, I would buy food and other supplies I needed, along with charging my power bank, which was sometimes a struggle to find a power outlet, and then getting back on trail as soon as possible to continue to the next leg of the trip.
What are some of the craziest towns you were in? I'm thinking of Hikertown right now, but what are some of the crazy experiences you've had in towns?
Lots of hitchhiking was always fun. It was sometimes boring because waiting for a ride sometimes would take 2 or 3 hours, but I never had a scary moment or anything like that. In terms of the towns, there's a wide variety of towns that are along the PCT, from very small like desert towns to Ashland is probably the biggest in Oregon. Hikertown wasn't really a town at all. It consists of someone's property they built like little shacks for hikers to rent, and then there was a nearby gas station that people could buy some food at. Lots of experiences lots of good experiences revolved around other hikers and meeting people. A lot of people formed what's called trail families, which is people you meet on trail that ended up you hiking with and camping next to for months on end. And it's kind of a weird atmosphere, because if you see someone headed your same direction who's also doing the PCT, you could never see them again or see them every day for the next few months. So it's important to be friendly to everyone.
What are some of the most memorable parts of the trail?
I really enjoyed my time in Washington. I set a goal for myself to do it the fastest I possibly could, so I didn't shower in a real shower or stay in any hotel of any kind during the 3 weeks it took for me to do Washington. And that was a memorable time because it was I was pushing myself the most I could to meet my goals. my deadline. I don't know.
How many miles did you walk a day?
Towards the end, it was around 25 miles a day. Towards the beginning, it was 12 or 15.
And how heavy was your backpack?
With about 5 days of food and like 2 liters of water, it would probably be like 35 pounds, but all of that heavily depends on how much water you're carrying and how much food you need to carry.
So was it super physically difficult?
It was physically difficult, but your body gets really good at hiking because that's what you put it under every day. At the same time, it also gets very worn down in certain areas like your shoulders or hips, and knee problems are very frequently, and probably the biggest reason for people quitting is injuries or money, running out of money.
What was it like to get to Canada?
It was a bag of mixed feelings for sure. Getting to Canada for me didn't mean completing the trail. In my mind, it was unfinished business. So it wasn't the reward that some people felt when they got there. However, it was very cool to see the end of Canada and to start in California and not leave, and to get to Canada. It was a moment, and yeah, a lot of mixed emotions.
And the unfinished business is now this last section.
Yeah.
How many miles is it?
Around 600. It's the highest altitude section of the PCT. It's the Sierra Nevada, and I want to say the average altitude you're at is like 9 or 10,000. It's pretty up there, and it's also during this section that the highest point on the PCT is.
So when you finish this next section, you will feel like you've actually completed the Pacific Crest Trail.
Yes, I think it would be a better feeling completing the section I have to go than it was reaching the border of Canada.
So that probably makes you pretty excited.
Very excited to be out there hiking again. It's been a hiking list winter because of my injuries that I've been dealing with.
Why do you like hiking so much?
It's just something that I've done at a young age, and I like being in nature in general. I also like working out and physically pushing myself, so combining those two things, hiking's a great outlet for me.
What were some of the most difficult times on the trail?
There was a few days, my ankle injury was hurting me a lot, and it was, with every step was pain, and those days were very tough. Also, there was a couple days where there was nonstop rain, and that definitely gets to you, trying to keep everything dry, and especially your sleeping bag and your sleeping situation in general. It's hard to hike all day on a hurt ankle and then get into a wet sleeping bag at the end of the day. So those were probably the toughest moments.
Having hiked with Asher, I understand how hard it is. It's very difficult, especially with the amount of miles you have to do and how heavy your backpack is. So I'm wondering why, despite the difficulties, you choose to backpack, and why you're gonna go back to finish the PCT.
A huge reason I'm going back is like I said, unfinished business. I really try to do things that I say I'm going to do, and that being one of them. But why I go back to hiking in general, because even day hiking a 14er is very difficult, and there's times where it's not fun, but that's kind of the whole point. It's kind of the rewarding. It's getting through that difficulty and then seeing you know, the view from the top, or just knowing you had a good day with friends hiking in the mountains.
Most of the time you hiked alone. That's is that a choice you had, or is there what's the difference between hiking alone and hiking with people?
Um, as far as if it's a choice I had, hiking by myself was kind of the reason I was out there. So there was a few times where I could have, you know, camped with another group and then continued hiking with them, but I always decided not to because of my personal quest, so to speak. And the difference is a lot for some people, and it's very personal. You know, some people, when going through hard times, like to go with it as a group, and that like group mentality is highly motivating. Uh, Although I feel there was some introspective moments where I could never have had them without being alone and backpacking alone.
Is there any lasting things you'd like to say to Front Range students or to anyone in the community?
You're doing great. Follow your dreams. I shook the camera a little bit.
What would you say?
You're doing a great job.